So this video is on adding and subtracting mixed numbers. Our learning target is being able to add and subtract mixed numbers. So make sure you are ready to take notes. When we add mixed numbers with like fractions, it's very similar to adding fractions with common denominators. We just have to remember that we have mixed numbers or whole numbers to deal with as well. So if we look at 3 and 3/7, I'm just going to rewrite this quick. 3 and 3/7 plus 8 and 1/7. What we do is we first you can do either order, but first add your whole numbers together. So 3 plus 8 is 11, because what we have is a little more than 3 plus a little more than 8. So my answer is going to be a little more than 11. So we want to make sure we understand what's happening here too, and we can't forget those whole numbers. And then we look at our fractions, and we, just like before, we add our numerators together. So 3 plus 1 would be 4. Keep the denominator the same. So we'd have 11 and 4/7. If we have 10 and 2/3 plus 3 and 2/3, 10 and 2/3 plus 3 and 2/3. Again, we are going to do add our whole numbers together first. So 10 plus 3. And this time we have something, 10 and 2/3 is closer to 11. 3 and 2/3 is closer to 4. So my answer is going to be close to 15, but because 11 plus 4 is 15, but still less than 15 because we don't have quite 11 and we don't quite have 4. So anyways, we do our whole numbers. So 10 plus 3 is 13. And then we're going to add our numerators. So we have 2 plus 2 is 4. Keep the denominator the same, 13 and 4/3. The problem is that we have an improper fraction with a whole number, which can't work. So we take our 4/3 and we change that to a mixed number. I know that 4/3 is the same as 1 and 1/3. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take 13 and we're going to add it to 1/3. So 13 plus 1 would be 14. Keep that 1/3. So we'd have 14 and 1/3. If you change your improper fraction to a mixed number, you just can't remember, you can't forget to go back and get that whole number from before. If we're subtracting mixed numbers with like fractions, we pretty much do the same thing. We have 6 and 5/12 minus 3 and 5/12, so 6 and 5/12 minus 3 and 5/12. So we are going to subtract our whole numbers, 6 minus 3, and then we're going to subtract our numerators. 5 minus 5 is 0, and then we keep the denominator the same, but 0/12 is just 0, so my answer is just going to be 3. 4 and 9/11 minus 1 and 5/11. We are going to subtract our whole numbers. 4 minus 1 is 3. And then subtract our numerators. 9 minus 5 is 4. Keep the denominator the same. 3 and 4/11. So when we have mixed numbers with unlike fractions, remember we need to find a common denominator first and then we add. So I look at 5 and 1/5 and 2 and 3/10, and I know that we can change our fifths to tenths because 5 can go into 10 evenly. So if I just do times 2 here, times 2 here, because remember I do to the numerator what I do to the denominator. But notice that it's just to the fraction, it's not to the whole number. So I'm going to rewrite it then as 5 and 2/10 plus 2 and 3/10. So I didn't change anything on the second mixed number at all. I left it exactly the same, except I just changed 5 and 1/5 to 5 and 2/10. Now I just add like we were doing before. 5 plus 2 is 7, and then add our numerators. 2 plus 3 is 5. So 7 and 5/10, and we always want to make sure it's in simplest form. 5/10 is not in simplest form. They can both be divided by 5. So I can't forget my 7 though. Sometimes we simplify our fraction and then we forget about the whole number. So then we would have 7 and 1/2. 8 and 1/2 plus 3/5. So 8 and 1/2 plus 3 and 4/5 is what I meant. I know that 2 and 5 again can both go into 5 or 10. My goodness. So 2 times 5 is 10, which means I'm going to do times 5 up here. And then 5 times 2 is 10, which means I'm going to do times 2 up here. Remember, we're doing the same thing to both numerator and denominator. Let's rewrite this. 8 and 5/10 plus 3 and 8/10 would be, so add my whole numbers, 11, and then add my numerators, and 13/10. 13/10 is an improper fraction, so I need to rewrite that. 10 goes into 13, so I'm going to take this and just rewrite it. 10 goes into 13 one time with 3 left over, so 1 and 3/10. Then add that to the 11, so 11 plus 1, so that's my whole number. 11 plus 1, so we would have 12 and 3/10. And then lastly, if we're subtracting mixed numbers with unlike fractions, this sometimes is a little bit more work. So let's look at 2 and 2/3 minus 1 and 1/4. I'm going to rewrite this. And first is finding a common denominator. So 3 and 4 both go into 12. So I know 3 times 4 is 12, which I do 2 times 4 up here. And then I know 4 times 3 is 12, which means I do times 3 up here. So let's rewrite this. 2 and 8/12 minus, remember to make sure you're doing the correct operation, 1 and 3/12. And then we do the same. Now we're back to mixed numbers, subtracting mixed numbers with common denominators. So then we're just going to do 2 minus 1 and we get 1. And then 8 minus 3 and we get 5. So 1 and 5/12. This one is going to be a little bit trickier. I'm going to show you one method this way, and then we'll go over this one a little bit more in class. So just rewrite it and follow along with me, even if it doesn't totally make sense. So 10 and 1/5 minus 2 and 5/6. So first of all, we are going to change this to common denominators. 5 and 6 both go into 30. So 5 times 6, 1 times 6, and then 6 times 5, 5 times 5. So we're going to rewrite it then as 10 and 6/30 minus 2 and 25/30. Okay, we do know that we can do this because we have a lot more. We have 10 and a little bit of something minus 2 and a little bit of something. So the subtraction works. It's just that the problem is our numerators. We can't really do 6 minus 25. It doesn't really work. Even going into negatives, it doesn't work because we have higher mixed numbers. So what we need to do is we need to take our whole number and we need to change it. We're going to take out one whole number from 10, but we're going to make it out of 30. So if I have 30/30 plus 9 plus 6/30, let's think about this. 30/30 is 1. And then we have 9, so 1 plus 9 is 10, and then we have our 6/30. So now what we can do is we can combine our numerators. Basically, we can add the fractions together. So we would end up, just for the time being, we would end up with 9 and 36/30. Okay, this is exactly the same value as 10 and 6/30. It's just that I took out one whole number. And the reason why I made it out of 30ths is because that's what our fraction was out of. And then we can subtract 2 and 25/30ths. And now it's doable because we can do 9 minus 2, which gives us 7, and then 36 minus 25, which gives us 11, and then we keep the denominator the same. So we end up with 7 and 11/30ths. We'll go through another problem like that in class tomorrow. You can also change them both to improper fractions and subtract that way, and then change them back to mixed numbers. That's all I have for you. Make sure you have your notes for tomorrow. Have a great day.